You're joining the
Am I
Loudr Lawyer
looking at you?
Network, the podcast where we sit down with the law firm owners, attorneys, and visionaries that are making the most noise in the legal landscape nationwide to find out the secrets to their success. Other podcasts think they're getting loud, but we're getting louder. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Loudr Lawyer Network, where we help attorneys scale to million-dollar months with powerful strategies and connections. And today, my guest is Jenn Gore. Jenn Gore, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here on the
Excited to have you.
Lawyer Network.
Nice. So, as I looked at your profile, just impressive, right? So you've done a series of things. So take me back to the moment that, I found something very interesting, that you decided to become an attorney because of what you experienced. Before you experienced that, what was your path like? What were you doing?
Before I wasn't a person that knew I was going to be a lawyer my whole life. But yet I was the type of person that would always be standing up for other people, in the neighborhood, or if somebody was bullying my sister, or if somebody needed somebody to stand up for them. I think there's certain personalities that lend itself to that.
Right.
So, but I really was going to business school. I came from a family where everyone had their own business. So I was very focused on becoming a business owner. And that was my dream when I was 18. And, looking back in hindsight, though, when my grandma died, I found letters that I wrote when I was 9 years old where I was pretending to be a lawyer and I was pretending to sue my dad's company. So, maybe I did know on some level, but I had lawyers in my family, and, I didn't know that I would ultimately become a lawyer. And then I worked for a lawyer as their kind of like family assistant when I was a teenager. And then I got into all these legal situations like you read about, where I was in a really bad car accident, and then my boyfriend died in a motorcycle accident, and then I was sued when my employer stole my identity, not the lawyer, a different employer. So all these things were happening where I had to deal with the legal system.
Wow. So that experience, those experiences helped build you up to where you were, and having that insight of building businesses took you to places that you probably never even dreamed of. Tell me how that whole process worked in terms of what was that first case? What did that look like in building your firm?
When we talk about the painful experiences that kind of like lead you to your destiny, still to this day, I don't know if this happens for you, but like if you're really honest about like, hey, all this bad stuff happened, which caused me to then become a lawyer, it still to me is like not the fun story, like nobody wishes they went through these different things, right?
Right.
But I think the point and if someone's listening and they're going through a hard time, it's the point that sometimes these things redirect your life, right? And sometimes something has to be so painful to actually create that level of redirection, right?
Right.
When I started my firm, I started it the day I got my law license. So my story is very different from most lawyers because I went to law school knowing I was going to start a law firm. And all throughout law school, I was marketing myself. People knew me in the law school. I was the student body president. I was working in a law firm. I switched into the night program so I could work as a paralegal during the day. I was very focused on where I was going. And part of that was because of those painful experiences. I knew what I wanted to do. And so that set me up to be able to start my law firm immediately after the 3 years I was in law school, I was working in a firm doing many different aspects, intake, paralegal, case management, all these different things. So that gave me the confidence that, hey, I could probably figure this out myself. I knew very early on that I was business minded, and the way I was thinking about the law firm was not the way the people that I worked for were thinking about it. You know, they didn't think like, I have to have a business system, I have to capture these leads, I have to do social media. Like, I remember coming to the people I was working for and going, why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we doing that? You know, so that gave me the confidence that if they're owning a business and it's a law firm, I can do that. And maybe that's craziness, but like, one of my greatest qualities, I think, has been I'm naive enough to leap into things and just think I can figure it out, you know?
Right.
And that's a gift and a curse. And so, yeah, in the beginning, my goal, just like starting this business now that I own, it's like in the very beginning, it's just get clients and start doing work and creating value. And that's all I was focused on. I remember the first person that ever let me represent them as their lawyer. I was so like, they're letting me be their lawyer. What an honor, you know?
Tell me about that. What was that first case? What was that like to you? You had done all these things coming out of school. What I find very interesting about what you said, Jen, is that most people, when they get out of school, go to find someone to work for. You came out, planted the dirt, put yourself in the dirt, and you just grew. That's strong.
Well, like I said, it was because I was working for people that I could tell like I knew more on the business side than they did. And so it gave me the confidence that now I just got to get the clients and I just got to take care of these clients. My friend from law school referred me my very first case. I got that case and I was just like, I'm going to do a great job. I'm going to do what other law firms can't do, which is give them 100% attention. And you have to work with the cards you have, right? You have to play the cards you have. So I then, you know, started realizing like my personality, I'm a networker, I'm a rainmaker. I can make business come in if I go out and pound the pavement. I would go to networking events. I was out there shouting from the rooftops, I'm doing this. And, you know, social media wasn't as big as it is now, but, you know, I was doing social media back then. I had a newsletter I started immediately. So every person I met, I put them on my newsletter. And I wanted people to know, if you know somebody, call me. The other great benefit I had was I had a friend in law school at the time who was working at a criminal defense firm who they had been signing up personal injury cases, but they had no one to do them. And she called me and said, if you come in and handle all these cases as like a co-counsel with us, we'll split the fee with you. So then I had a bank of cases of like, okay, now I have all these cases I can help them with and make some money. And so I was able to get these different kind of like opportunities through my personal network.
That's amazing. What a beautiful story. So in building that, as you continue building, did you take the route of, since you were already head in the business, did you have billboards? Did you have
I did. I mean, in the beginning, I got some billboards. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasted a bunch of money. I remember I went to a networking event where they were going to teach us about marketing. And I told this guy, like, I'm going to be a big firm in Atlanta one day. And he was like, well, how are you going to do that? And he was very dismissive of me and it made me so mad. And I was like, one day I'll show you. And so it's just the fundamentals, you know, just every little guerrilla marketing tactic I could do, I would attempt. Some worked, some didn't. I mean, in the beginning, my whole business was really referrals. And I see that with a lot of law firms. It's all about hustle, market, sell in the beginning. You got to get referrals in the door. But then I started getting frustrated because the business was growing, but I felt that referrals are hard to scale because if your referral partner is not growing as fast as you're limited. And there's a lot of politics in referrals. People will refer you something and now there's strings attached. There's all these complexities to referrals. somebody could cut off your referrals at any time. So my feeling was I had to get to the point where I could generate my own cases through Google or whatever digital ways that I could find.
Sorry, I interrupted. You said something that was very key. I was looking at a tape of you where you talked about being honest, whether it was good news or bad news, with the employees from that perspective. And I feel that carry over from what you how you handled your clients and other insurance companies and things that you dealt with.
You know, I never really had, this sounds crazy, but dealing with clients in a law firm are very easy to me. If you are honest with people, it's very easy to have good relationships with clients. I never really struggled with that. How I would approach the clients is I would say, look, you hired me to be your legal advocate. My job as your lawyer is to tell you all the good, the bad, and the ugly, and to tell you what I would do if you were my brother, my sister, my friend. If I don't tell you the truth, it's only going to hurt you. There's going to be lawyers out there that tell you what you want to hear until they get down to the end of the case, and then they got to deliver you a bunch of bad news, and you're going to be 10 times angrier. I need you to understand that I'm going to tell you things that you're not going to want to hear. And I'm doing this because we have a confidential relationship and everything is between us. And we need to be able to make the best decision within that sacred space. I never had a client that was mad at me. I mean, I had to tell people multiple times, look, we thought there was $1 million of insurance. There's only 200,000. I've had to tell a mother, your son, he died, and we thought that this case was completely not his fault. And guess what? Your son, who was an amazing graduate student, he was on drugs when this accident occurred.
Wow.
You know, and I know you don't see him in that light, but this is the truth of the evidence. Like, I've had to have very, very hard conversations, but if I come at it from a place of I am the vehicle to help you understand your situation, you're not going to have angry clients, period.
Right.
Dealing with insurance adjusters and attorneys, that's a whole nother, you know, we're in an adversarial relationship. So with different people, you have to use different styles and tactics. There's people you can play the nice guy approach, like, hey, let's get this done. Let's be reasonable. Then there's other people where you got to really throw down and be like, I'm not messing around and I will go to the full extent and don't try me. Right. Every you have different approaches with when it comes to adversarial relationships. Not all tools work. Right. And then, you know, when it comes to staff, that's a totally different dynamic because that is an employer-employee relationship. So you cannot approach that the same as you approach an adversarial relationship or a client relationship. And in the beginning, when I first started employing people, I really was not cut out to understand the skill set I needed to employ people. There's a big leap that a lot of law firms go from being a solo, you know, many people, they're just a solo, they have maybe one staff member, to owning a business and commanding a team.
Right.
And there's skill set involved that if you don't have it, you will find yourself in a bad way.
Wow. I'm quoting you. You put a lot of science into how you approach business, whether it be setting up your law firm or what have you guys now, Evergreen, which is coaching, right?
Yep. For law firms.
Coaching for law firms. You have every single element that's just, and watching you speak right now, you have a presence that demands just naturally attention. Like I'm listening to you, I'm like, wow, solid point after point. Like you're so direct and natural. It's like it's just flowing off you like water.
I've lived these painful experiences and I speak from truth of blood, sweat, and tears. I can say these things because I know the pain and the joy of them. And I only talk about the managing of employees because I do think that's a big pain point for a lot of people. And lot of lawyers are A players, or they're people like the natural A type personality. And typically, you don't need a ton of motivation if you're a lawyer to do your work or to become who you're going to be. And that is not the experience that really most employees have. Like, the greatest leaders are able to take people and multiply their impact and to bring them out of their shell and to really expand them. And it's a hard experience for lawyers when you don't really need that, right? Like, if you're an A player, I used to say to myself, why do I need to motivate everyone? I'm self-motivated, right? But if you think like that, you're not going to be a very good leader.
Right. So being that leader, with that being said, how did you find the next your team, so to speak? Did you had other attorneys that you brought in? What were the principles or attributes that you looked for in them?
Oh my gosh, I made every mistake in the book. I hired every wrong attorney. I will say, when I sold my law firm later down the road, I really had an amazing group of attorneys that I still stand behind and am in communication with. And I think they're great. And it's a vision and a dream to get to that point where you have great attorneys. But I went through the war to get to that, because I hired all the wrong attorneys with the wrong experience, with I didn't know any better. I hired attorneys that maybe they were much senior to me in their years of an attorney, but they didn't have that killer instinct, right? And so when I was a young attorney, 28 years old with a law firm, I'm thinking, I hire a 38-year-old lawyer. They got to be great, the naivety of that. I kind of felt insecure being so young and thinking, well, these people must know more than me because they're older than me.
Right.
I was rudely shocked with attorney after attorney who couldn't negotiate their way out of a paper bag, even though they've been an attorney for 10 years. And, there's many attorneys that are conflict avoidant. And if you're conflict avoidant, please do not sign up to be a personal injury lawyer.
Your recipe, if I can use that. I mean, I like to cook sometimes, but everything that you put together in your business in building a successful law firm, you had other people knocking at your door, other firms, because of what you did. What led you to come into Evergreen after having such a successful practice that was just obviously at the top of its game when you sold it, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I was going around the country, going to workshops, learning about how to make my business better. I mean, some of the key to my success is that I went to and spent and invested a lot of money into my own development. So I went to personal development. I worked with Tony Robbins. I worked with David Nagel. I worked with all these mindset things on how to become a higher level leader. Then I was going to workshops on sales, intake, trainings, how to lead people, financial management. I was going to all these workshops and learning. And I had a friend that was going to these things, and she would tell me, oh, you should come. So I was spending a lot of money at the time to try to learn the operational components of a law firm. As that wore on, I then got into mastermind groups where I met people like, let's say, the largest law firms in 5 states. They're all getting together and they're meeting at the St. Regis. And I would show up and I would get into these groups and I would sit and listen to everyone's presentations on the best things they did in their firm that year and the worst things they did in their firm that year. And I would learn, and I was like a sponge, and I would obsess over these things. And then I would try to come home and implement these things in my law firm. And that was like a relentless pursuit that I was on. I was at one point going to 15 events a year, started meeting all the people that were putting together the events. Then I started meeting the people that were selecting the speakers. And I got one chance to speak on stage to a very large audience in Las Vegas. And then that kind of cemented my speaking. And then I got invited to speak at many more things after that. And it kind of became a ripple effect. And I started building more of like a national brand and a national presence. And that whole snowball, started rolling. And that's what ultimately led a firm in California to offer to buy my firm.
Wow. And that firm was Sweet James, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they're everywhere. You walking down the street or driving, you see Sweet James billboards. They're like, Sweet James. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
they're like the third largest PI firm in America. So I was a partner at Sweet James. I, helped take my firm through the year-long merger that involves taking all of the pieces and commingling them and building a new arm of Sweet James. And I learned a lot through that experience. And I was really excited about what I would learn through that journey. And ultimately, I kind of was going through a lot in my personal life, going through a divorce and going through like turning 40 and like thinking I was having a midlife crisis. And I started to realize like the things that I was loving doing was helping other law firms learn and grow. So I had posted on my LinkedIn profile, I'm coaching law firms because I had received so much coaching of my own. I had people coming to me and saying like, can you help me? And I had like a real reckoning of like the excitement I used to have about getting up and building the law firm. I was impacting so many people, but I was having this vision that I'm going to one day coach people all over the world and help people build law firms and businesses all over the world. And I was starting to have this vision that I couldn't see my path and my future just contained within the law firm.
Right.
And when, the offer to buy my firm, and then I already had been coaching about 10 to 15 firms as like a hobby. And I was
You
seeing,
just
yeah, that was my hobby. Like
a hobby.
yeah, like you talk to some of my original clients and, I was making really good money. I mean, people were paying me like $2,000 an hour to talk to them about their firms. And I was doing this with 10 to 15 firms a month, but it was like very casual. Like I was just jumping on Zooms, and these firms were making a lot of progress. They were really like, people were calling me saying like, you changed my life. And like, I was able to go on a vacation for the first time with my family, and my law firm didn't blow up. And so my love of this work was just growing. And when I decided to fully sell all my shares of Sweet James, because there are complexities to being a partner in a firm. I had total freedom for 14 years, and there's politics and complexities to being a partner in a firm. And, if I'm coaching firms, it can present, challenges to, me owning a law firm or being a partner in a firm presented conflicts of interest of me growing my coaching business. This is a reality. And so I had to make a decision within my heart of hearts of like, what do I want to spend the rest of my life doing? And I think a lot of people would struggle with that decision because you're a lawyer and you already have something. And it's like, this is easy to just stay doing the same thing. But I'm a person that like my subconscious mind drives me crazy once I get my idea that I need to do something. I can't let it go. And so here I am now living my dream.
I mean, living your dream. Well, I was going to say before you mentioned you did all of this. One, being a female in the space and being as strong as you were, stronger than your male counterparts, and you were a mother and a wife all at the same time. How did that balance? How did you hold all that together and being so successful in the same breath? Because that is a lot to take on.
Listen, I mean, I ended up getting a divorce, so I don't know how successful it was. I mean, I have 3 amazing kids, and I believe that you choose your parents, and my kids chose me, and I have to be me, and who I am fundamentally is an entrepreneur. And so I believe that my children needed exactly me to be their mother. And like, I'm not a traditional mom. Like, to be the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, I don't really do domestic chores. I have a household staff. I have a lot of people in place that allow me to live the way I live and to really only do the things I want to do. My goal on a daily basis is to live in my house like a hotel. You know, I'm not a traditional mother in terms of like doing laundry all day. And
Right.
that's been a complex journey because, you know, the messaging that women get about how they not only need to, you know, be the CEO of the household and do everything themselves is very limiting to your ability to, you know, do what I've done. And that's part of the work I do with many women. My feeling on all of these topics is this is your life and you get to architect it. There may be people that love to do laundry. There may be people that love to clean their house. I don't like to do those things. I love a clean house and I love laundry done, but I don't necessarily need to do those things.
Right. If there was if a person came into you right now, a young woman that was looking to get into law, had the mindset of you or your younger self, what would you tell that younger version of yourself or that young individual as she walks into your office? What advice would you give her?
That you have to decide what are your values, what are the things you have to pave your own path. The number one question I talk to when I talk to a law firm owner, I could talk to 10 people. I say, what are we building and why? And the reason I need to say that is that people don't even stop to think about what they're doing or live with any intentionality. So why do you want to build a $10 million law firm? What is it about that? Why do we want to build a $1 million law firm? Give me your why. Why are we doing this? Why is this important to you? And when we build this, what itch is it going to scratch for you? Because our business is our art. It's our point of view of the world. It's our offering to the world. And we have to understand, what is it? What I hear a lot of is like, I'm just doing what I saw someone else do. We need to really have a really deep why, because business is hard. And if you don't have a really compelling why, you're not going to be able to endure the storm that is entrepreneurship. I mean, one of my favorite books is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1929. And I was just talking with someone yesterday about desire and your heart. You need to have a burning desire for what you do. And if you don't have that, you're not going to be able to endure the struggles that are going to be presented in your path on owning a business.
As you spoke those words, I don't know if you saw, the sun just up on me right now. Right at your sentence, I got brighter.
It's the burning desire. You are sharing your message through this podcast, you know, to the world. And you have to have that passion. You have to have a reason that you spring. I spring out of bed in the morning thinking about all the ways that I can help people grow their law firms. And I stay up late at night thinking about that. If your business does not do that for you, you may be in the wrong industry.
Right. No, absolutely true. And you don't only focus on, you said the technicalities of, you know, a building of a law business. You talk about, you know, your digital marketing, your intake and all those things. But you seem to come from a place that's actually going to the attorney themselves, getting their minds right and
Mindset
their
work.
perspectives,
Yeah.
their mindset. You know what I mean? You're doing that's the core. That's the core.
Yeah.
That's what's going to hold them together.
If you don't so there's 7 parts to a law firm. So the 7 parts are marketing, which leads to intake, which leads to production, which leads to people, which leads to finances, which leads to systems and IT. And the 7th is the wild card. And this is what you're talking about. This is the owner's mindset and the owner's leadership. The owner is the 7th part. You can take every law firm, all 6 other pieces with 7 different attorneys, 7 different owners, and you have a totally different firm. That person's risk tolerance, their vision, their leadership, how much they're willing to work on themselves is going to be the cap to that business, right? So we need to think about all of our problems, our trauma, it comes out in your business. Like business is the greatest personal development endeavor you can go on, because none of that stuff can you get away from in business. It will present itself over and over. If you have scarcity mindset, it's going to show up in business. If you don't have faith, it shows up in business. If you lack leadership, it shows up in business. All of your fears will manifest in your business if you're not in control of your mindset.
I love how you put faith in there. You didn't even stutter. That's strong.
You've experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as we're talking right now, I don't know if Adrian told you, but when we were gonna get together before, and I was having camera glitches. I was at the doctor. I'm in recovery right now. I was in an accident. I got T-boned. The lady ran a stop sign on the 17th, and I went to the hospital with a concussion. Everything from
field work.
Huh?
Now you're doing field work.
Now I'm doing the field work, but talking to individuals like you had I had a guest that I saw that you did a podcast with, Justin Chopin, which I love. His mindset is strong.
Yes.
And I'm finding with attorneys that I'm talking to, the many attorneys, the Britt Harrisons, the Brennan Hausers, they all have that compassionate, they're people, they're human beings first. And they don't think about the dollar. Because like you said, the dollar is already built into the equation. It's about, how can I trust this individual I'm talking to? And I'm listening to you and I'm looking at you and I'm hanging on every word. You are so on point. Like, you're amazing, Jenn.
Thank you. It's a lot of mistakes, I think people see me now and they just think it's been like a path of like just rainbows and sunshine and butterflies, but like you don't get to certain levels unless you've been through hardship. And like I try to share more of that so that we can shatter this image that like life is so perfect and easy. I can tell you days that I walked in and I had 2 attorneys resign in the same day. I can tell you times when, I had an employee sue me for something that wasn't fair, that wasn't right, because it was like a gotcha thing.
Right.
I can tell you times when, we were facing, financial stress because we were growing so fast. And like, I had to come up with $200,000 in a week. And, these are the types of things that pave you into, someone who's relentless.
No, absolutely. In terms of getting your clients now, back in the day when you were an attorney, you had your firm, you had your digital marketing and all those things that went into place. From what you're doing now at Evergreen Coaching, how do you come about clients now? How do you get your clients? How many clients how's the process?
So, I have a really big following on social media and LinkedIn. And at this stage of the growth of the company, all of my people have found me through my network and, referral, word of mouth. But we're actually expanding now because I'm trying to run this the exact same way that I believe the law firm was run, which was many other talented people other than myself. I think you really don't have a business until the business can, run at some level without you. So we're expanding it. I now have a fractional COO program where we're coaching COOs around the country, number 2 in command, operations director, people that aspire to be, a second in command in a law firm. So We're running that program. I'm in the talks right now with launching a CMO program where we're going to have people coaching marketing directors in law firms. I see a lot of law firms where they have a marketing assistant. They have somebody in the seat, but they're not really that seasoned in how to run the marketing in a firm. So we're going to be coaching people on how to become world-class CMOs in law firms. I have a paralegal program that's starting that's going to be led by Amy. She used to run the paralegal program at MTMP. And our goal now is to not just coach the owners of firms, but their key like leadership team, and to get all of those people working in sync. I also host a business plan workshop every year in Atlanta where people come from all over the country and they present their business plan, and then we kind of tear it apart. It's like Shark Tank style.
Oh,
And
wow.
we find all the holes in the plan, and a lot of it has to do with, blind spots they have, or, different things that are not going to line up. And so when they leave, all of my clients have a business plan for the year that we're just executing on that plan versus trying to figure it out, day by day. It's like there is a plan and we're executing it.
Right. So you have other businesses besides law firms that want your expertise, correct?
Yeah. So funny enough, this past year, in our business plan workshop, I had a couple businesses reach out in Atlanta that were like, we really want to come, and we're not law firms. And I was hesitant because I don't only really ever coached law firms. And I ended up saying yes. And so I'm now coaching a couple businesses that are legal touching. So they're, like in the legal space, but they're not law firms. And that's been really eye-opening and exciting. And it reaffirms my belief that business is business. And, all of these companies,
Absolutely.
The fundamentals are the fundamentals. And they also kind of inspired some of the law firms, because some of these businesses are killing it. And it's like, hey guys, you went to all this work to get a law degree, to open a law firm, and this guy over here started his business a year ago, not even a law firm, and he's making more money than you. What are you doing?
Right. I'm going to put this out there. Listening to you talk and your commanding aura, if I can use that. Like, I'm listening to what you're saying. I think there's so many businesses out there that could benefit from what you teach on leadership and running things. Like you said, business is business. It doesn't matter what it is. What does that leadership look like? And I think people, men and women, can learn so much from you.
Yeah, I thought in the beginning I would be coaching a lot of women, but in fact, I'm coaching more men than women. And it's sad in a way, because I think that less women invest in coaching for themselves. And I'm waiting and hoping for more women to come to the table. And I do coach a lot of amazing women, but statistically, it just seems like a lot of women are afraid to invest in themselves. And that is what's holding so many people back. If you learn business skills, the investments you make in yourself pay tenfold, and nobody can ever take away those skills once you acquire them.
Oh man, that's right there. That's the selling point right there. You need to be on camera with that one right there. That one right there hits, sticks home.
Yeah. And, I think that now I'm giving permission to other people to expand. Like a couple people, they own a law firm, and maybe they're like, I also had a passion to do this other thing too. And so part of my journey, people have been following me, seeing I've kind of evolved and changed over the years. I'm not who I was 5 years ago. It's really important that you as a person follow your inner voice. And sometimes it's scary, because it's like, okay, well, I can stay where I am and this is comfortable. But I don't believe that we get these like feelings or these downloads for no reason.
Right. Absolutely.
That voice is coming from somewhere, and I think it's connected to your greater purpose. And if you're not listening to that voice, you're kind of like avoiding your destiny.
Right. Well, it's funny you talk about the voice. I look at it as that the good that's in all of us. I look at our Lord and Savior that lives inside, the Holy Spirit that's in there that connects people. Like, it's not an accident that I'm speaking to you right now, that you're talking about giving back. What you're doing is being of service to people. And you're using everything, all your life experiences from when you were little, when you said you wrote into your journal about wanting to be an attorney and sue your dad and things of that nature, which I think I can just picture that. That's like a little movie right there, If you story tell.
Oh, I have the letter on my wall.
No, that right there speaks volumes to who you are. and standing by when the bully was picking on your sister. Just all those elements, as you were speaking, I was watching you and just seeing the growth, motherhood, that difficult part in life, and then steady going. You never went off your path. And I think that right there speaks volumes. I'm gonna ask you another question, and we'll wrap it up with this. When you hear the term Loudr Lawyer, what does the term Loudr Lawyer mean to you?
When I hear the term Loudr Lawyer, it means for you to be loud on your platform and your point of view about how you see law. I talk a lot about different brands and like I was talking to you about our work is our art. You should be loud on your point of view and how you see the law and your offering to the legal world, right? Part of what I'm doing now is I'm offering my coaching services to the legal world as the Jenn Gore way of how I think intake and business. And it's an amalgamation of all the experiences I've had, all the mentors I've had, all the things I've learned. And if your platform is so small that you're shouting from a stage that is, 20 people can hear you, certainly you may impact those 20 people, but your job is to promote yourself and to get your message out into the world as large of a platform as you can. And if you are on a stage that could speak to 1,000 people, think about all the impact your message has. And so, there's a lot of people who are uncomfortable with self-promotion and being loud, right? And
Right.
I've always taken it as it's your duty to get your message into the world. It's your job to make sure your message impacts as many people as you can. And I'm like a vehicle, right? We're all vehicles for these messages. And so it's doing nobody a service for you to be quiet in your life about the messages that you have to share. And you being out there is not harming anyone. And I think people need to kind of get over that.
Right. Oh, that was well said. Well said. Beautiful. So, Jenn, how do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you?
You can follow me on all the socials. I'm on LinkedIn, Jenn Gore. I try to post content every single day. I'm on Instagram, Jenn Gore Lawyer. The website is evergreenbizcoaching.com. So it's EvergreenBiz coaching.com. My email, Jennifer@evergreenbizcoaching.com. I am always getting emails. People are reaching out to me. I go to a lot of events. If you ever see me, come say hello. And I would love to chat with you about your business.
Thank you. Thank you. And Jenn, thank you for being here, showing us what powerful strategies and connections really can do in the legal world. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for being a part of the Loudr Lawyer Network. If you're enjoying the conversation, let us know. Give us a like and subscribe to never miss a thing. We'll see you next time right here on the Loudr Lawyer Network.